Good evening. This is our Finance Dynamic Empower for You YouTube channel. This is Donny Wise, and this is in coordination with our upcoming launch of TakeControlOfMoney.com, which is your personal finance news and multimedia 360 resource for any consumer, any community, large and small. Also, with our Financial Literacy Foundation, the Elmwood Jernigan Financial Literacy Foundation, all of that will be launching sometime in the end of September of 2012. Any information on that, please check out our test site, which is financedynamic.com. It will cover all our first phase launch, and we'll give you details and our partners and contact and a lot of great information resources that you will need before we even launch the site. Tonight I'm going over a very kind of a spontaneous event. Three things I wanted to cover tonight that I think is very essential. One is unfair debt collecting. Debt collectors do run, federal law has a strict or a kind of a strict ordinance on how they're supposed to operate. Both the federal law and state law both have guidelines that debt collectors can operate. If you ever notice, at night, a debt collector usually does not call after 9 p.m. because it's against the law. They usually cannot start any earlier than 8 a.m. with their phone calls and last till 9 p.m. However, in the new economy with the credit crisis that we recently had, and also a lot of debts that have gone bad, and these companies they do not have the time to do their own debt collecting. They write these loans off or write these debts off, and they sell them to a third-party vendor. These third-party vendors really have a lot less rights under federal and state law, and a lot less protection to recoup that money. However, the legal system is not acting in the best interest of the consumers, and I'm about to give you an example of this. If you have been any experience with getting a judgment, and the judgment has been from some agency, you don't know who they are. If they're a third-party debt collector and they are not the original creditor that sustained that lawsuit against you, technically they have less rights to issue a judgment and to collect these funds. But people do not know these laws. So, and without going into a lot of legal detail, I'm going to give you an example that is commonplace in America today, and one that happened to my mother actually earlier this afternoon. She brought to my attention that she had a phone call. You had to excuse me because I'm using the phone as we do this. She brought a voicemail to my attention, and that voicemail was very disturbing. If I had not been in the banking industry and had not had this experience, I would be a little disturbed myself. So let's see if I can find this message. Please excuse me because I'm having to go through a couple items here, and let's see, it is right here. Okay, thank you for your patience. Let's see if I'm going to have all this work. And auxiliary. Okay, let's see if this works. Okay, 1 second. I do appreciate your technical difficulties. Okay. Voicemail mode. It is 46 seconds. This is it.
62774 received at 10:18 a.m. on August 15th.
Message is for Judy. This is Investigator Jessica James.
I'm calling in reference to the positive check fraud case I'm working on. Shannon Lee has been named as the accused in the case. However, your name has come up as a possible associate to that person, as in you might know them. If you could please give me a call back as soon as possible. I just need to get a brief statement from you. My number is 601-326-2774. Thank you. To listen to this.
Now, if you did not hear that message, I'm going to replay it one more time and a little bit lower.
I'm calling in reference to the positive check fraud case I'm working on. 10:18 a.m.
First,
on August 15th. Message is for Judy. This is Investigator Jessica Jane.
Investigator Jessica Jane.
I'm calling in reference to the positive check fraud case I'm
A
working on.
depositive check fraud case. I mean, a depositive check fraud. Okay, what is that?
Your name is come up as a possible associate.
She named some other lady,
That person, as in you
and
might
she
know
needs to
them.
get a statement from my
Please
mother.
give me a call back as soon as possible. I just need.
Okay, so you hear that, and I said, okay, so let's call this phone number that they gave, and let the phone number that they gave.
Brief statement from you. My number is 601-326-2774. Thank you.
Let's release that one here right here.
Need to get a brief statement from you. My number is 601-326-2774. Thank you.
601-326-6774. Okay, you know what I did? Being the concerned son I am, I did dial this number. Now here's what we're going to get. Let's see if I can put this back in. Get a little bit louder speaker here. Okay, recent calls. 601-544-7900. Oh, that's another number. 601-326-7749. This is to the lady who called my mother and left that voicemail on her answer machine. Sorry for the long pause, but here we go. Oh.
You've reached Jessica J. Investigation. I am currently away from my desk, but if you could please leave your name and number, I will get back to you as soon as possible. If you've already been contacted by your local authorities, I can no longer help you with your case. Again.
Okay, we're going to call her again because you heard that. Let's repeat this one more time because this is very important. Because I want to show you what this is not legitimate at all. Anybody that calls you and cannot tell you which jurisdiction they're an authority, if they who they work for, what police department, sheriff's department, the FBI. Here we go. Sorry for the long ring.
You've reached Jessica Q. District Investigations. I am currently away from my desk, but if you please leave your name and number, I will get back to you as soon as possible. If you've already been contacted by your local authorities, I can no longer help you with your case. Again, leave your name, number, and your detailed message, and I will get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you. Please leave your message after the tone. When done, hang up.
Okay, so we're going to take this one step further, and I hope that this works. I'm calling. If this number is a 601 area code number, so if you look at the 601 area code. I don't have Siri yet, but when you're starting a business, sometimes you have to cut corners somewhere. And so, but I do have this. I do have Google Voice. 601, well, 601 area code. 601 area code. Oh, well, look at there. It is Mississippi. It is actually in the area of Hattiesburg. So, I am going to contact the Hattiesburg Police Department. So, this phone number, so I actually did this too. We put this phone number into our system before we got on the show, and this number is based out of Hattiesburg. Okay, so I just wanted to verify before I do this again. I called the police department, and I'm gonna have to apologize, but we're on the show now. I do not want to. Let's see if I can have her on auxiliary, and can she hear me? I don't know if she's gonna be able to hear me this way. So if I'm doing this, if I'm speaking, she should still be able to hear me. Okay, we'll call the Hattiesburg Police Department. Is this the Hattiesburg Police Department? Yeah, yes. Actually, I was calling one more time. I did not mean to bother you, but I had a call from your area saying they were investigator, and okay. No, the reason I was being, I said, I just want to verify. I verified that I do have to call my local police department, and my mother would have to file a petition there, and then they would contact you since that was in your jurisdiction that they're saying that they're investigator. Okay, and then would you guys would go after them after that? Okay, and I have all the recordings and everything. Give it to them. Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Bye bye. Okay. Now, I don't know. I cannot do not have this 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 recent news event, but I was in D.C. and I actually had not been feeling well that evening, and I watched CNN, and somebody had been impersonating a law enforcement officer, had the badges on him, no threat to society. He had not posed a threat other than bragging that he had been in law enforcement, including having, I mean, I think he had like he said he was in the FBI or something like that. That he was busted hardcore. They did not. I mean, it was no mincing words or no second thought. It was not me being in North Carolina or my mother being in North Carolina when someone in Hattiesburg, Mississippi is saying they're an investigator and they're threatening people. They're telling people that you're going to jail. Something's going to happen to you. Your authorities are coming after you. That is absolutely wrong. And and hopefully, hopefully, you understand that if somebody calls with a scare tactic, look, I've had them call and say they were from the FBI and they were coming to my door at the bank and are going to arrest me over someone stealing checks from me and writing checks, a girl by my name, and threatening me to every respite of the earth, but it was false. They cannot do that, but they're getting away with it. They're getting away with it. They are getting away with it, and we are allowing them to get away with it. We don't know. We don't know any better. And one of this morals of this story is that when you say financial literacy or financial education or it's a dull or we don't have time in our schools, financial literacy, education, being savvy from a young age would curtail crap, and excuse my language, like this. People like this should go down, and we are going to go. My mother may not like this, but we're going to the Johnston County Sheriff's Department, and we are going to file a report. We're going to carry this out, and we're going to have details in a couple of days for you. So what else next? Usually a one-man show. They said it's hard to entertain, and we're going to make it more interesting as soon as we, go go through things. But I got something here. Financial literacy in school is really, I mean, it's really a major component of life. And if you have doubts, and you hear people, a few months ago, a writer, he does day trades, and he was talking about how just how really financial literacy education was not worth it. It just did not prove the results, and you know this and that and the other. And I have to tend to disagree. And I mean, it's financial literacy is more than teaching somebody how to add and subtract from a checkbook, how to use a debit card, money management. Technically, if you want to be honest, financial literacy is three things, and I bet most of you guys have never heard this ever in your life. MIB, not the Men in Black. It is the money. It's money management, or managing, investing, and borrowing. That is the three components of financial literacy, of financial everything in our lives. But when people say it's not worth it, there is just no benefits. Every excuse in the world. We don't have enough time to teach this. What benefit is it? Well, let me tell you what benefit. I'll give you three things of benefit. Three items of benefit. When I turned 18 years old, I, I bought in this debtor society. Nobody taught me how to save money, and it was not my parents' fault. And they learned a different way because of how things were. The community banker was there in place when my family decided to start their own business, or to do a business venture, or to seek financing. That community banker was their teacher, plain and simple. So with that community banker, nobody taught them, but that community banker taught them and walked them through the process of being financially savvy, and not only in what they do in their business, but also in financial matters, to help their business grow and become successful. And they grew with them and walked right through that with them until the period of deregulation. So I come along, if you're at my age, and your parents didn't know how to teach. They didn't know how to teach you this savings and credit, and you know, basically, I mean, because they weren't taught themselves. They learned through the community banking system. That's what was their teacher. Our only source of literacy in this country, boom, gone with the deregulation. To show you how important this structure was. Now, if you're gonna have economists, and you're gonna have people at the Fed say the volatility of the 70s in the banking industry, yeah, it was there. But if you look through all the issues, all the problems, everything that we went through a heck of a lot during the 70s. How did we survive? The foundation of our financial system, the foundation that the the intricate of our foundation of our financial system is the community banker, the actual community banker, or the companies, I call it, the community and the consumer. They're interdependent on each other for sustainability. If one succeeds and the other two don't, they all three fail in the eyes of the banker at that time. and that was true. So we went through all these issues, upheaval from the Vietnam War in the early 70s to the oil crisis to stagflation to double-digit mortgage rates and but um, double-digit mortgage rates and also high unemployment. But the one thing that did happen during that period of time, one thing is that the community stayed intact. The community banker was there. My father was able during that whole period, and let me explain that what period I'm talking about. Um, in the stock market, we expect things to go up, 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 up. Well, when I was getting my investment license, and somebody look at me and say, 1966, the Dow hit 1,000, or it hit like 980 something. It didn't hit 1,000 again until 1982. 16 years in the bear market. If you're a stockbroker, how do you sell in that? My father was able to create invent a plant food company, get finances, start his own small company to be bought out by a larger company. From an agrarian poor lifestyle to an executive of a national firm, which is actually is in 18 countries, also in plus in the United States for 20 years. That says something. That's the difference. That community banker was there. That foundation was there. Today, that foundation is gone. We suffer through all these problems and all these issues. We have all, and I'm getting off my soapbox in a minute. We have all these issues, and people wonder. You have, I mean, working in Washington D.C. You had the Federal Reserve sitting over there, and Ben Bernanke was a very student to very he is a genius on the Great Depression. He put things in place that the loss of confidence was not there, but he just couldn't do enough stimulus to get people to borrow money or to get the economy back up and running. Well, why? People say it's deleveraging, that we were too leveraged in debt. That's true. But here's another reason. There is a bigger reason than that. First, when they dropped rates to zero, the Fed let the banks borrow money from them at these cheap interest rates, with the assumption, the Federal Reserve, the assumption, because in a calculation and how things should work, it all has to be calculated. There is a model or a calculation on how these things work, that they would have access to the Fed window to loan money into their communities. Instead, they did not loan money into their communities. They loaned money. They took that cheap money at 0% interest rate, and at the time we were figuring this out, and put it in T-bills that were earning, I think 10-year T-bills were at 3% or something, and they were earning 300 basis points or 3% on their money of 0% interest. They were buying government debt. They were not giving loans to the credit-worthy consumers. They were not trying to have a foreclosure system or a modification system that was going to benefit some of the larger banks, the consumer. So Ben Bernanke did all these things. What happened? What went wrong? What went wrong was that that nobody understands the foundation has crumbled. The banks are not the banks. You have to make the banks live up to their obligations as a traditional banking entity. The consumer has to be the centric part of this, and that's the whole issue, and that's why you're having these problems. That's why the banks can do stuff like that. They're going to be able to dish off their dirty work and write and charge-offs to another debt collector that will bend the rules a little bit. And these people are hard to catch, but we're going to try to catch this one, and we will let you know on that. Before we go any further, talking about financial literacy, I mean, the thing is that you people talk about getting pulled over on the road by a fake cop. Well, you're getting these phone calls by fake investigators, fake cops, and they are breaking the rules. You know what? Financial literacy, financial literacy, teaching economics in the elementary classroom. You know, and I don't know if I can show this, but let's see if we get it a little bit better. So, so what is that? I mean, teaching economics in a, I mean, technically, financial literacy should begin day one. It should be go from day one. It's a cradle to grave till we die. Our personal finance impacts more, if anything, than anything else in our lives. Even if it's not our own personal finance, we're more about if it's our parents. So let me give you an example. We turn 18 years of age. We know how to have safe sex. We know how to put on use protection. The schools feel like that is essential for us to know. But how to start a business, how to be credit literate, how to save money. I mean, you got to buy protection with something. You got to have some sort of money management skills and money to buy these safe sex practices. So financial literacy is where it begins, and you know, working with one of the state school systems. I mean, I'm just going to be honest with you. I got some material about their curriculum because they were really wanting to start some sort of curriculum this year. And I got the copy of the curriculum from 2005. This has not been approved. This has been in process since 2005. And, you know, the disagreement, educators, I was told, and not educators, are very sensitive to their subject matter and to their work, and there's a lot of good educators out there. However, educators, when it comes to financial literacy, may need to look at things a little bit differently. In my discussions with one of the educators that works for the school systems in North Carolina, I explained to them about writing a book that is called Super Parenting $1,000,000 Children by 18. And it explains how you become a millionaire by the time you're 18, and it is possible. But the other thing is to change your behavior, change my behavior. If I was having a child, and change the behavior of, it's when I'm getting married. The first hint I'll give you from the book: when you're getting married and you think you're having kids, you need to open an account and start saving today. I mean, the earlier you save, the better off it is for that child, because you're going to be you're going to be implementing the savings vehicles, and you're going to be starting to put into practices yourself for your child, and you're also going to change some of your own behaviors. So when that child becomes of age, beginning at 2, when they're not be able to take over a portfolio or anything, but they start becoming a partner in this, those behaviors become part of their behaviors. And all the misbehaviors and mistakes of your past, it's harder to change yourself, but it's easier to bring change to the job. So let's say your child doesn't make $1,000,000 by the time they're 18. Let me tell you something. If they are saving, if they have money in the bank, and they know about credit, and at 18 they can say, with this knowledge, either I'm going to college, I can start a business, or I'm going to buy an investment property, or I'm going to travel Europe, I can do it, and then come back to college. I do not need my mother and father. I don't need a student loan. I do not need the government. I need myself. And I'm not saying that, you know, the, the, the government is going to be totally out of the student loan business, but that's where we need to be at. Is this debtor society we have has got to go. And so, but mentioning that to the educator, he was very upset because I did not, I was not making everybody a millionaire by 18. I misled children. But let me tell you something. There's something um, in all of us that we as Americans we have really made a mistake on. You know, money is nice to have. Money is a tool, but your value is your wealth. If you know, some people do make it off money. Some people believe that they have money and they become the judge, the jury, and the executioner. And also, some people believe that, you know, glam, and having money, you know, makes you successful. Learning to crawl before you walk is not is one thing that one of my relatives has always said that drove me crazy, but it is so true. Because the day that you can have value and you realize what wealth you bring, a lot less money you'll need in your life. So that's something to think about. But the financial literacy thing, financial literacy is so important in the schools. We need to be fighting for that. And so if you wonder how you can fight for that, if your school system is not going to have a financial education or literacy curriculum, um, go to financedynamic.com and let us know that. We will have that site up by Wednesday so you can put all that information. That question will be under the Financial Literacy Foundation about which curriculum, which school systems are not offering that curriculum, who would be interested in an online curriculum, um, and you know, and what could we do to help your children become more financially, you know, prepared in this modern world. One last thing for this evening. There's two things. Um, I'm going to be writing two articles this week. Um, yeah, you know, one is going to two articles. Both are going to be focusing on who this election season. I put a thing on my Facebook page about, you know, this bickering and this battle and this ugliness in this campaign. You know, I mean, in 2008, I went to Obama's election party, one of his big election parties, and I went to the inauguration. I stood out there in that 15-degree cold with Aretha Franklin and her hat, and but you know the hope and change. I mean, his message. I sat out there that day, being a person who loves oratory, thinking that what a fool this nation will this nation will be if this hope and change is not is a joke. I mean, what a fool. I mean, as voters, I mean, I would feel like a fool because the hope and change, and you know, that I fell for it, and I mean, most people, I can't blame most people for falling for it, but my background is in pre-law. I'm not like most people. I keep up with things. I mean, politics is not something that is, you know, above my head. I mean, it's, you know, it's something a passion I have, and I fell for the hope and change because that's not the hope and change we got. And now, but saying that, my resources this year is going to be looking at how to bring, how to make things better in our communities. And you know, the best. I mean, this economy, the weakness, everything. There, we got a lot of economic problems, and our debtor society is the biggest problem. But how you change that? You you let me ask you a question. You have a community, and your community is financially, the more healthy people you have in your community financially, how's that going to impact your economy? If you are sick, medically sick, and you wake up one day 2 years later, you're almost going to die, and someone's been taking care of your finances as best they could, um, and now you've got all these bills, medical collections, and your credit has been destroyed, and you can't get any help, and it's hard to get through this process. You feel like, why did I survive? That's not quality of life. If you if there was recourse, yes. I mean, you say, okay, well, I was sick. I'm going to now go through this recourse and try to straighten this stuff out. But medical collections, no recourse, very little at all. That's an example of making things better. So making things better is saying two things are outstanding right now. The credit unions have legislation sitting on Congress's desk, and they should have already had this passed. The Credit Union National Association, the CUNA, if you go on their website, cuna.org, talk about form grassroots, get the word out, get your Congress to pass this. I mean, they have an opportunity to change the debate of these candidates and find the candidate that will help them get this through. What what am I talking about? The credit unions have a bill on the Congress's desk. If it passes, it raises the cap of business loans that they can have on their books. And so this cap being raised will allow credit unions to offer small business loans in the community. What has happened though, and I'm trying to wrap this up real fast, what has happened is that the banks have used three, three objections that is absolutely unreal. Number one, these people are not trained, and the risk that they pose going out there offering loans could cause another financial crisis. Number two, if they're able to offer business loans, why shouldn't they pay taxes? And number three, um, they the actual um, the actual impact on businesses of untrained people being out in the community offering such loans is just not good for the banking industry. Okay, let's not even go to that because CUNA for not being able to overcome those objections, that's an issue. But the credit union is missing valuable time. 75 days before the election, you're not the banks are. I don't hear banks being talked about in this debate here. I hear deficits in the economy and all that, and there is no change without changing those banks. Competition is one of them. The credit union should have an opportunity. I'm not saying the credit unions are perfect, but they should have an opportunity to be able to do this membership business lending. It will. The banks are not doing it. Their jobs in the communities. The credit unions can step in and do theirs. The last thing I got to say is, can't really show part of this paperwork, but what is this? Hold on, let's see. Um, this is from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. And you know what it tells me? Okay, um, first it does, there's something you don't know about, but um, the Protection Bureau ruled that still, if you are modifying a loan and foreclosure proceedings are in process, they can still do the foreclosure proceedings while you're in modification. They did not stop that. I thought they were here to protect the people. Sounds like a bureaucracy. It sounds like a 24th bureaucracy of that manages the banking industry. It just gets worse. I'm gonna be writing the what I was discussing about the credit unions earlier. I will be writing an article about the credit unions and their issue, how they're losing out in this election, and I will be writing an article about how the new disclosures and all these new um, compliance that's being put out by the um, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau that's supposed to be helping customers with disclosures and all that is causing a bureaucratic disaster. And you know the thing about banking too, banks putting pressure on the consumer, and regulations do the same thing. And the protection bureau was supposed to be different. It's supposed to be, you know, we're for the consumer. We're going to do all these things to protect the consumer. You know, I mean, they've done some good things. They have put some good measures in place. But here's the deal. This paperwork right here tells it all. The bureau not stopping foreclosures during modifications is another. And here's a third. Why don't you have a phone number and consolidate the other 20 some odd actually I think it's 18 agencies that can consolidate under you, have a phone number for people to call with questions, with issues, with violations, instead of having to fill out forms and make it a nightmare. It is a convoluted situation up there. And instead of doing that, we have another regulatory agency. But they're supposed to be really good, and they may be really good. But in a branch network, they make number 24th of a regulatory agency. And how can you regulate with so many hands in the cookie jar? I don't know, but I'll be writing an article about that this week, and the first part of it will appear on thewiseme.com, and then you will follow up with financedynamic.com, and it will also be posted in some national magazines or national online news sites, but that will be yet to be determined. Um, Sorry for my longer than expected show tonight, and this is kind of a first. I was told that I had to get comfortable with the video, and this is my first step, so I will be doing these at least once a day. If you have any questions, always feel free to, I think there is a link on my YouTube page of how to get in touch with me, but it's always Donny Wise. There's two ways. Let me give you my easier email address. Donny at DonnyWise.com or at Donny Wise at EmpowerTheConsumer.com. Also, you can follow me on Twitter at Finance Dynamic, and on Facebook it's Finance Dynamic, and I'm also on linked as under Donny Wise, so you should be able to find me. Any other questions or concerns, please, the links are there. Also, if you go to the wiseme.com, that's kind of like my personal finance news and blog site, and also with our business launch update, you'll find out more about our phase 1 launch on our business. And also, you will also see up on the right side with the main menu pages is a contact. You will be able to contact me directly with any questions or concerns you may have. You will have a response within 48 hours. Thank you for being with me tonight. Good night.